Hello, this is Erica Norton, and I'm the founder of Perfect Legal Video. I'm very excited to have with us today Attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee. She owns a family and real estate law firm out in the Worcester area, and she comes to us every week with some very important information in those areas of the law. And today we are going to be talking about some news that is right hot off the press. Today, we're going to be talking about the new child support guidelines. So, thank you so much for joining us today, Nicole. We have been waiting with bated breath.
Thanks for having me. The new law took effect December 1st, 2025, so it is definitely fresh.
Okay, so you wouldn't even tell me about these new guidelines. I know that every 2 years the guidelines change. Is that correct?
Every 3 years they look at it, and within the fourth year, before the third and fourth year, they automatically change it. So they will update it. Some things don't get changed, some things do. It all depends on what they think didn't work in the last 3 years.
Time is obviously moving a lot quicker for me because I think it's so much quicker than it is. I feel like once you hear about it, it takes a little while, like turning the ship, right? And then all of a sudden you're sailing and it's time to change course again.
Absolutely. It's definitely, you know, it's funny because my answer to everyone when they don't like the child support numbers is, well, you have to talk to your legislature. You have to talk to the people that are going to make these changes because, again, all we can do is give them input. But it really, revolves around the clients and the people that are, in this situation and going, well, wait a minute, I don't understand. If I'm in this tax bracket, I'm getting screwed. If I'm doing this, it's not as beneficial. So again, they're looking for that feedback, and that's really where it comes from, along with the attorneys and the judges putting their input in.
Absolutely. And every year, I think this is what you've said to me before. Every year it seems to go for one side or the other. Like last time they changed it, the new laws really benefited people with two or more children, whereas the people that only had one child, they got big cuts in their child support.
And that is generally true. And I would say that this time it probably has the least impact overall. We're looking at people that have one child with the old guidelines and the new guidelines. If your child's under the age of 18 and your incomes are basically the same, we're talking pennies. We're talking $5 to $10 difference in a week. Where if you have two or more children, that changes a little bit different. Again, under the age of 18, you're looking at probably a $15 to $20 change. And it seems to be interesting, but it really depends on whether or not we're looking at that 2/3 or that equal, because that's really where it's going to have the most impact. And then when you're talking about children that are over the age of 18, the numbers are greatly different. That's where I see the biggest change this time. I see a bigger change again with the impact of higher income families. So those are different changes that, people that are making more money, whether it be combined or individually, that's where it's going to have the most changes.
And so it changes in what way? I mean, I know that there were a lot of changes the last time where people got their, with one child under 18, they got their child support cut quite a bit. But it depends on what the financial situation is, too. I mean, I know that there's a calculation, and let's start there. Talk to us about the calculation.
Well, I like the new formula because it slaps you in the face. It really does. It's one of those things that, they've always hidden on page 4. Well, now it's on the top in the bold. So you can quickly look at it, see what the number is, and then you look at the breakdown. So it's still the same 4-page document, but now we don't have to scroll through all these pages and try to figure it out. And it also provides for you on that first page, on that bold top, if your income is more than 450 combined, then this is the additional amount. So again, we're saving ourselves a lot of time and aggravation looking through these documents, figuring it out. It's right there. It's in your face. So the question is, again, can we deviate from the numbers? Do we have to look at, the cost of daycare, the cost of health insurance and dental insurance, social security, things of those nature? Those are all still there. So none of that has changed. But the biggest picture you're going to look at is it's easier to read. It's easier to comprehend, where when I'm showing it to pro se litigants, they're looking at me as if I have two heads. They're like, what? Huh? The math still stinks, but the good thing is the formula on the website still work. So it's a plug and play as it used to be, but I think you have that benefit of being able to look at it and quickly know. And more importantly, you can also do a calculation and then redo another calculation without it freezing this time. Before, you'd have to log out, get out of the whole program, then go back in. So those are the things that help us as attorneys, whether we're doing it in the courthouse or on our computers.
That's great. I'm glad that it's like right up front. You can find the information. That's really good. And I can see where it might still be confusing for people that are trying to represent themselves, because that's really where we step in and we say, hey, if you need help with this, definitely, if you're in the Worcester area or really pretty far into Massachusetts and in a lot of directions, call Nicole, call her team. They are phenomenal at what they do, and they can actually tell you whether or not it's worth going back to court to change the support. Whether you're trying to pay less support or whether you're trying to get more support, depending on which side you're on. It's really important to look at if it's worth it or not, because going to court costs money and it costs time and it costs a lot of aggravation, which really has an effect on your health. So you want to really talk to somebody that knows, hey, you know what? you're gonna pay $100,000 and 3 years of your life to try to, figure this out and get like a $50 a week change, when it's just not going to pay for itself. And then by the time you're done, the laws are going to change again. So you could be in court forever. I mean, so what's your advice about going back and trying to get your support changed, whether it's depending on what side you're on, whether you're trying to get less or pay less or get more, whatever it is, what are the things you need to look at?
I think you really need to look at what the parenting schedule is like, and whether or not there's some other children factors in. So one of the things that the new guidelines did was said, well, okay, you have custody of two children, mom, and dad has custody of one child. And it allowed us to do the split in the formula itself, where before we were doing one child support guideline for dad, one child support guideline for mom, and then we were offsetting it. So this actually allows us to do it in the document itself. So that's just a nice little quirk that they really thought about, because that happens often. They also have, again, the prior court orders. I think those are the things that really people need to look at. Is there a prior court order? Are you living with somebody and you have an obligation for this child that you're with now? Because, again, those are things that we as attorneys are going to be looking at. I think the guideline report is a 35-page document. So we're reading that 35-page document and we're going through and picking it out. And we're finding out what is going to be considered income, what isn't. There were slight deviations in that as well. So again, something that wasn't considered a taxable and income thing for child support before might very well be now. So from my perspective, it's worth getting an analysis. The question is, are we going to do it? Don't know. What are your circumstances? How have they changed? Does it warrant it? Will your ex be amenable to that amount? If it's an insignificant amount, they might go, yeah, whatever, I'll just pay the extra $10 and we'll be done with it. And that might be great for you because, oh my God, that $10 a month, that's $40 a month. That's a lot of money for some people. Versus other people that are like, I'm not wasting my time for that. So it really kind of depends on the dynamic of the family. Or maybe you can say, hey, look, can you help with extracurricular activities? And I won't take you back into court for the extra child support. So again, it's worth a conversation to figure out what is best for you and your family. And it's going to definitely be on a case by case basis.
So, I mean, and that makes a lot of sense. It makes sense to at least sit down with someone and do the calculation and find out if it is something that's going to be worthwhile, for sure. And I mean, how often do you see people spending a lot of time and money for a very little change?
Oh, they unfortunately do it too often, and people will say, well, I want I want this reduced and because I get more parenting time. Okay, well, you're not paying to see your child. But again, if you're going to really fight over that overnight where you're literally only getting the child sleeping with at your house and then you're going to take them off to school, does that really amount to an increase in child support or decrease? Probably not. So, again, from my perspective, don't be petty. Think about the big picture because that's really what we're going to need to look at. Because it's not about how many days they're sleeping in somebody's house or not sleeping in somebody's house. It's about what's best for that child. And guess what? Having your parents not fight sometimes is the best option.
I mean, for sure. I mean, who wants to be around that, especially a kid? And then kids have enough to figure out today. There's enough stress on children today, just growing up and figuring out the social hierarchies in their schools and bullying and all the different things that they have to deal with, then to also have to come home and listen to their parents fight over money and time and all of the other things that were the reasons that they ended up breaking up.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the kind of frustrating things, if you will, from my perspective, is when you have a parent that was paying the minimum. The minimum before was $12 a week. So somebody that wasn't collecting a Social Security, wasn't working, you were obligated to pay $12. Great. Cost of living increase. Now the child support minimum is $15 a week. And you're going, well, I'm not going to go back to court for that $3 extra. I mean, I'm assuming at that situation, you're the parent that's paying for the child financially anyway. So again, does it make sense to go back for that extra $3? But, we again have to look at that big picture and what that family dynamic is, because if we're talking about larger monies, then absolutely.
So I have a good question, I think. What do you do when you just have a litigious ex-partner and any chance they get that, like, it doesn't matter how small, it doesn't matter how much money they have to spend. I mean, does it come to a point where the judge is just annoyed? And I mean, I guess everybody has their day in court, right? But how does that really work?
That's a great question, and that is so true. Generally speaking, whether it be an attorney or a judge, we do get frustrated, and we see those cases, and they're usually multiple file folders, and the file folders get about this big before they have to go to the second one and third one. If you got a second and third one, the judge is like, but again, depending on where you are in the scheme of things, we're going to look at it. So they're going to look at the docket number and how many pleadings there actually are. But whether it be the judge or the attorney, we can request that it has to go through judicial review before a pleading is even filed. So that would prevent you from running into court to say, I want an increase in child support. And they might run the guidelines right there and say, okay, well, what does dad make? What does mom make? Run the guidelines. And an ACJM might determine that, no, the guidelines are the exact same. Even under the new guidelines, I'm not allowing you to file this. And so they're precluding you from filing it. So you don't get your day in court because there's no reasonable basis. So that is a way to unofficially sanction people from doing bad things in the courthouse.
Yeah, I mean, some people just want to be miserable. And that's all it's about. They don't really care about $10 or whatever it might be for that particular situation. So, I mean, that's good to know that there are some safeguards in place because those people are also time wasters. That there are more important cases out there, and you're going to want to, respect the court's time and everybody else's time by just bringing things that are actually important.
Absolutely. And I will remind everyone again that you can still ask for a deviation on the guidelines. Again, they're going to look at what you've done in the past, but that's still an available option. One time we were just in court the other day, and the whole amount was $37, and they're like, "Oh, well, we're not going to fight over $37. We'll just waive that." Again, that's something that the parties can agree to. The court can enter a deviation, but very infrequently is the court going to allow a deviation without the parties' consent.
I mean, that's great to know. So, I mean, this sounds like it's just something where you need to talk to your attorney, check it out, see if it makes sense to do it or not, see if it's going to waste people's time, see if it's just like way too much effort for a very little bit of money. And I mean, I guess, do you have any last words of advice on the new guidelines before we go?
We're still going to be working out kinks. The reality is, everyone always says, well, they're the guidelines. Well, they are. And unfortunately, sometimes the guidelines are wrong. So in the next, 6 months to a year, we will see cases that are actually addressing the child support guidelines, and case law may support something different. We had that, I think, back in 2017, where we had a 2017 guidelines and we had to convert it to 2018 because the law changed and we had to fix it. So sometimes we don't wait that 3 to 4 year period just because something's happening. So, make sure that you're talking to your attorney, you're having this conversation, because all I can tell you is what the guidelines are today. And since they're brand new and less than a month old, we don't know if there's going to be further tweaks in it.
Thank you so much for letting us know about the new guidelines, and we really appreciate your insight as always. And thank you so much, everyone, for watching. We will come back with a new and interesting topic next week. And thank you again for being on the show today, Nicole.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you all next week.